gets killed. You see, that breaks everybody's heart.
Right.
A police officer takes a bullet, that go with the territory.
Right.
But that is just the nature of the job. There's really nothing that we can do except keep striving to do the job that we are paid to do and to try to do it right.
Right.
And the negativity, the police officers that put a bad stain on the police department, that stain is hard to get out.
It's hard to get out.
It's just hard to get out.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm going to challenge you on something. I think it is something we can do about it, about these images.
Really?
Okay, which is one reason why I have you on my show today.
Okay.
Okay? I think that we don't see enough of the positive images, okay?
Yeah.
I was reading your book, and I know you had spent some time at a high school, I believe, a school, and how, you actually started taking that personal to, talk and counsel to a lot of the kids in that school, right?
Yes.
Okay, so these images, when, you find officers that go above and beyond, like you say, go into a burning building or doing some things in the community that's positive, I'm going to ask you a question. Why can't the department, because I don't know the answer, why can't they show more of these images? If I hear a positive story and I'm here at CAN TV, I want to present that to the Chicagoland area. So why do you think that the department won't show more of the positive stories? Because I know there are some. But like you said, what really dominates the air is usually the negative ones. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, there's an old saying that I've heard many times in the media: if it bleeds, it leads. That means if it's a bloody story and it's got some negative attachment to it, that's what we're going to talk about. If I have watched news programs where the first 10 minutes were all negative, the first 4 or 5 stories that they talked about, the footage, the video, everything was carnage, and that's what they want to press. That's what they want to push forward.
Right.
I worked at that school. I said I was going to work there for 4 years.
Right.
I ended up working there 10 years because of them kids. Them was my little kids, them little Panthers, little Parkside Panthers was mine.
Okay.
And when I first got there, it was some tension because they're from a rough neighborhood, and they got all this negativity about the police. He the police, so they nervous.
Right.
But after a few years, and they got to see what I am in reality, I'm a cool guy. I'm a police officer that played the saxophone for y'all, brought a band and jammed and played Mr. Magic. I played basketball with the kids who said, "You old, Officer Howard, you can't play with us." Right. And we go up there and beat them by 25, 35 points.
Right. That's right.
I was a police officer who took the little girl and talked to her, took the little boy and talked to him. Why you so angry? What you so pissed off about? Right. And that's how you get a kid, not through toughness, through tenderness. That's how you get them.
Right.
And once they found out that I cared about them, they let their guards down.
Right. Right.
And if I hadn't retired, I'd probably still be working there.
Still be there now,
but
right.
It's all about getting past the surface and getting into. You got to get past the surface. Don't deal with stereotypes and preconceived notions about people because you don't know. And that's what I try to do in my professional life when I was on the job. I think the biggest compliment a police officer can get, and I'm proud to say I got it many times from people I arrested, people that I had to hook up. When they got out of jail and they did their time or they beat their case, when they saw me back on the streets, they would tell their boys, "He cool." And if you can get that compliment from people on the streets that don't like the police, then you know you're doing something right. You are actually doing something right. So that's why I said I can look at myself in the mirror, live with what I see looking at me.
And that's got to make you feel really great.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
That's it. But I know, again, I'm going back to it again. I know when once upon a time I was a victim of identity theft. Okay. And that's when I got like a one-on-one really with the police department. And to make the story short, it was actually the FBI that helped me instead of the Chicago Police Department, but that's another story. They really didn't. I'm going to be honest, they really didn't. But because they have so many cases, and of course, mine probably wasn't that important to what they have on their list. It was important to me though. But the bottom line is this person, one of the officers actually got interested in what I said. He actually turned into a human being.
Yeah.
And he gave me a little history about it and said, you know what, I'm going to give it as much time as walk as I can. So when you get that, when somebody's really listening to you that has a uniform on and not just looking at you as a number, I know how I felt. And that's what I wish that we could see more of, because I know it does happen. But again, you don't see it because we need each other. You know, and I'm going to give you an example. You know, when I watch TV and they say, hey, you know, if you have any information about this particular crime, you know, call.
Okay.
See, things like that, and people in the community probably do know, but maybe they don't trust, okay, even coming out to make these comments because they're scared or fearful. So if we bridge the gap, you know what I'm saying, then I think that maybe some of this crime could be resolved more, but it takes time to build the relationship. I want to see the relationship stronger in the city of Chicago. I really do.
Personally, as a police officer, as a citizen of the city, I can honestly say that I understand people's fear. I understand their fear. It's easy for me, it's easy for a state's attorney, and it's easy for a mayor to say you have to cooperate with the police.
Right.
You have to cooperate. Because when the state's attorney and that mayor leave the podium, you know who's following them? Security.
Yes.
They got security.
Absolutely.
When they get in front of their house, there's police cars parked in front of their house. When they get up in the morning and leave out the house, they ain't walking out the house.
Right.
Okay,
They're not
1,
looking over
2,
their shoulder.
3, 4.
Right.
Charge. Let's go. Oh, yeah, when you got the police around you, yeah, you can be tough. But what if you live in Inglewood?
Right.
What if you live in Roseland? You live there. Your wife lives there.
Right.
Your children live there. And them gangbangers know where you live.
Right.
Now you're going to go to court, I mean, it's one thing to tell me.
Right.
But you see, that's not how it works, the system. You can't just tell me. Now you got to go over to 26 in California.
Right.
Raise your hand. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in open court with a gallery full of gangbangers sitting up there watching you. Oh, you snitching, huh?
All right.
Oh, okay. Now, you know what's happening while you testifying.
You're right.
They burning your house down.
You better know. Yeah,
now, I'm not saying it's a catch-22 because on the other side of it, if you don't say nothing, the gangbangers are looking too.
Right.
Oh, they ain't gonna say nothing. We can do whatever we want.
Right.
So it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. It's in the Constitution that you got a right to face your accusers. So unless you're gonna do something about the Constitution, or unless you're gonna do something, because I work with gangbangers, I know they talk a good game, but they want to live too.
Right.
They talk all that, beating on their chest. You should see them when they start shooting. Some of them should have been over in London on that Olympic team.
Yeah.
Running track. That's how fast they run.
Right.
They not all that. Don't believe me. They don't want to die either.
Yeah.
So it's a sticky situation, but somebody gonna have to. Something's got to happen.
Right. Well, see, and the reason I'm bringing this up, and I hear exactly what you're saying, and I understand the fear. You know, working with young people every day from the same neighborhoods you're talking about, just to come to school is a challenge. You know that?
Yes.
I mean, something I would probably take for granted, just to come to school and remain safe that day. But I guess I'm a believer on the positive side. It has to start somewhere, though, because now we're out of control. So if we're out of control, we got to go back and start from the beginning and say, you know what, we got to build a relationship. And it may take a long time. But Terrence, I believe that we have to start there because no one is ever going to get their information. That trust is not there. And I think it's worth it. In fact, somebody from the department now is holding a campaign I saw the other day on the TV about it's okay to snitch. Okay, so you know, I saw that and I said, okay, so, you know, what you going to follow that up with? How are you going to build that? So I'm just letting you know how people can be disconnected from the real truth that's going on right now. But that's a campaign.
I think that that's the only way you can beat the only way you can beat your enemy if you can't join them. You can't beat them, you can't join them. You got to find a new strategy.
Okay.
And no snitching is nothing new. It's been around forever. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a belief in the system, and it's going to take a belief in the police department because the police are not the problem in your community. The police department is part of the solution, but the community has to bear a certain responsibility too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it's going to take everybody combined to defeat this,
Right.
to defeat this violent culture
Right.
that we live in.
Right.
And I don't know all the answers. I wish if I did know them, I'd tell it. I'm not that intelligent, but something's got to change.
Right.
Something's got to change.
Right, and I'm always about going to the ground floor first, you know, from the beginning. Also, this kind of leads into my next question here. First of all, what really led you to write this book? And this is the first time that you wrote a book, correct?
Yes.
And I want you to tell the people out there in the Chicago area, what does it take to write a book? I know some people every day say, I want to write a book, I want to write a book. So you got to give your expertise. How did you pull this off?
Okay, this started, I wrote this particular book because I wanted to talk for myself. I had 21 years on the job when I started writing this book. And for 21 years, I've watched newspaper, I've watched television shows, I've read newspaper articles, I've looked at cable shows like this, where these people come on the show or talk to these reporters, and they're speaking for me, and because of these rules here, I can't speak for myself.
You couldn't do it, yeah.
And who's speaking for me? A mayor, who is not a police officer, has no police training, and has no police experience. You got community activists, civil rights attorneys, and journalists in the media speaking for me.
Right.
They have no police experience. They have no police training. And this might surprise you. You got the superintendent speaking for us.
No, it doesn't, but I'm there. I understand.
Okay, the superintendent, who is not a police officer.
Right.
He is not a police officer.
Right.
Now, he used to be.
Right, and not to
He used to
interrupt
be.
you, sometimes a superintendent, you correct me if I'm wrong, maybe they have never even served on the street.
Well, that would be a stretch.
Is that a stretch? Okay.
That's a stretch. But the thing about a superintendent, well, we had one who never worked the streets of Chicago in my time.
That's what I was talking about.
He never worked the streets.
Right.
But a superintendent starts at the bottom like everybody else, and then he gets a promotion. But once he gets promoted, he's not a police officer anymore. So he goes from the bottom step of the ladder to the next step.
Okay.
Then he goes up to the next step. All this time he's away from the troops. Then he goes up again.
Right.
That's more time away from the troops. He goes up again. By the time he gets to the penthouse, he may not have been a police officer since Clinton was president, you know, and he no telling how long he's been since he actually answered a 911 call, and the streets do change.
Right.
What you were dealing with 15 years ago, you're not dealing with the same thing a police officer today is dealing with.
Right, right.
When I was a rookie, I had two fears, only two. Getting fired, getting killed.
Yeah.
Getting killed, that might be in God's hands.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care how bad you are.
Right.
You can get caught slipping. Getting fired, you had to do something like violate these rules, do something criminal, or do something real stupid. But a police officer today, he got so much to be afraid of.
Yeah.
He's got to be afraid of these rules.
Right.
He's got to be afraid of getting fired. He's got to be afraid of getting killed. He's got to get afraid of getting videoed.
Yeah.
He's got to be afraid of getting sued. I mean, there's so many things to fear now that a police officer is thinking too much. And thinking too much on the streets can cost you your life.
Yeah, I can see that.
What should I do? Let me see, let me see, you don't have all that time.
Yeah, you don't have the time.
For all of that.
Right, right.
But it is what it is. And you have to play the game the way the game is set up.
Right.
Unfortunately for officers today, that's the way the game is set up.
Right. So what motivated you? What did you do? Who's the first person, let's say, you contacted when you wanted to write this book?
I just started writing. It started on April 16th, 2007.
Okay.
I came home from work. I turned on the TV. Massacre, Virginia Tech University. I said, what? I turned up the volume. I started flipping pages on every channel. Somebody, because he having a bad day, want to just go kill a bunch of people who haven't done nothing to him.
Right.
And I just said, wait a minute. Come on now. Is this how you handle life? everybody got problems, but this is how you choose to handle your problems.
Right.
So I wrote a letter to the Sun-Times,
All right.
but I didn't mail it. Then I wrote another letter.